Hello, I'm Lara Kulcherson and this is Newsfeed, your dose of what people are talking about online. Israel has ordered Doctors Without Borders to leave Gaza by the end of February. The ban comes after the medical charity refused to share staff lists with Israeli authorities. The charity says Israel's decision to cancel is a pretext to block the delivery of humanitarian aid. In December, Israel announced it would bar 37 aid groups from working in Gaza for failing to meet new requirements. These include providing detailed information about Palestinian employees. MSF argues this would put its staff at risk. Since the war began, around 1,700 health workers have been killed, including MSF staff. Some argue that beyond restricting aid, Tel Aviv has another motive. International journalists remain barred from Gaza, leaving aid groups as the only international witnesses documenting genocide and the shortage of aid.
Testimonies have relied entirely upon either Palestinian journalists who've been systematically targeted or aid workers who experienced the same thing. In October of 2024, 65 doctors, nurses, and paramedics wrote an op-ed in the New York Times where they described scenes so horrific, including cases of children as young as 5 with single gunshot wounds to the skull. Removing organizations like Doctors Without Borders from Gaza is a means to remove more witnesses from describing the horrors endured by the Palestinian people. Now, Israel is removing these organizations with plausible deniability. They're claiming we just set out new regulations and none of these aid organizations are following through on our regulatory restrictions. So if an aid organization supports the International Criminal Court issuing arrest warrants for people like Benjamin Netanyahu to be prosecuted for war crimes, that aid organization is no longer allowed to operate inside Gaza.
Meanwhile, Israel continues its atrocities despite the ceasefire. Over the weekend, more than 30 Palestinians were killed in a wave of Israeli airstrikes across the Gaza Strip. Since the ceasefire took effect in early October, Israeli forces have killed more than 500 Gazans. The strikes came as the Rafah crossing planned to open on Monday. Only a limited number of Palestinians in urgent need of medical care will be able to seek help. The crossing has been closed since May.
The inside of the Rafah border crossing looks like a prison, and that's intentional. Palestinians are not free to move. Israel still decides who gets out of Gaza. Every name must be pre-approved through Israeli security vetting, coordinated with Egypt. And if Israel says no, then you cannot cross. Egypt allows limited entry on its side, but conducts its own security screening and has made clear it will not accept large-scale Palestinian displacement. So Palestinians are trapped between Israeli approval and Egyptian restrictions, and Rafah is still not open for commercial goods or large-scale aid. This limited opening does nothing to lift the siege. An estimated 18,000 people need urgent medical treatment that can't be provided in Gaza due to Israel's destruction of the healthcare system. At a rate of about 50 medical evacuations a day, it would take roughly a whole year to get all of them out, assuming that the crossing never closes again and no one else gets injured, which is unrealistic. So yes, Rafah is reopening, but in practice, it's still tightly rationed, controlled by Israel, constrained by Egypt, and wholly insufficient for the catastrophe unfolding in Gaza.
This image of 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos with his blue bunny ears, beanie, and Spider-Man backpack is quickly becoming the ugly face of U.S. immigration policies. Liam was apprehended with his father, Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, in Minnesota and taken to a detention center in Texas. The arrest inflamed tensions over immigrant arrests and led to nationwide protests. At the weekend, a district judge ruled that Liam and his father be released. He slammed their arrest, saying it was driven by lust for unbridled power.
Judge calls the Trump administration's actions traumatizing to children and the moves of a dictator. This nightmare for Liam and his father started back on January 20th. Agents followed them home when they were getting back from preschool and then tried to use Liam as bait to get the mother to come out. Liam and his father were then moved from Minnesota to the Dilley Family Detention Center in Texas, where they spent nearly 2 weeks. And during a visit to the facility by Representatives Joaquin Castro and Jasmine Crockett, the father told us that since arriving at the facility, Liam had been lethargic, depressed, and kept asking when he was going to go home. Liam wasn't the only kid in that situation asking when he was going home. There are kids who have been in that facility for months. There have been protests inside the Dilley facility demanding for the children to be released. Most of these children and these families are people who tried to use the CBP-1 app to come to the US, just like Liam and his father. Even the judge who ordered the release of Liam and his father, in his opinion, talked about the cruelty behind these actions, saying that the case has its genesis in the ill-conceived and incompetently implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas, apparently even if it requires traumatizing children. Going on to say, civics lesson to the government, as in, listen up, administrative warrants issued by the executive branch to itself do not pass probable cause muster. That is called the fox guarding the henhouse. The Constitution requires an independent judicial officer, and this part, I believe, is directed at Trump himself. Observing human behavior confirms that for some among us, the perfidious lust for unbridled power and the imposition of cruelty in his quest know no bounds and are bereft of human decency.
Immigration officials say they were after Liam's dad and not the child. However, lawyers acting for the family claim that the father and son entered the US legally. They were escaping economic hardship in Ecuador. President Donald Trump's intense crackdown on immigrants has sparked protests across the US, and he's even come under fire from members of his own party. President Trump says the US is in talks with Iran and believes they will be able to reach a deal. This comes amid mounting concern that Washington is preparing an attack. There are also signs coming from Tehran about possible progress. The officials warned of retaliation in the event of a US attack. American analysts are questioning their government's intention.
Something very confusing to me about threatening to use force against Iran. Months ago, President Trump did use force, and we were told that he had eliminated the Iran nuclear weapons program. But now we're told we're going to do a deal with the mullahs to eliminate the Iran nuclear program? What does that mean? Both of those things can't be true at the same time. Did we not succeed the first time around, and now we have to use diplomacy to do what we did not accomplish with the military several months ago? This is genuinely confusing to me, and I do not understand why we are now cutting a deal to accomplish what I thought Trump had already told us he had done before.
I want to give you guys an idea of how many pictures and documents were released with the Epstein files. All of these are from the Epstein files. They go on for ages. Look at that bar as it goes down. Thousands and thousands of images to go through. You could even search by people. So you could click Jeffrey Epstein, Chris Tucker, Bill Clinton, etc.
The release of more than 3 million pages of documents from the US Justice Department linked to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation continues to send shockwaves around the world. The files include over 2,000 videos and 180,000 photographs recovered from Epstein's electronic devices. The records reference many high-profile names, from politicians and royals to tech leaders and celebrities. President Trump is mentioned hundreds of times. But being named in these files does not mean any wrongdoing. Many of the references are based on email exchanges, social invitations, flight logs, or unverified tips received by the FBI, often without supporting evidence or follow-up findings. In Trump's case, he has acknowledged knowing Epstein socially in the past, but says the relationship ended years ago. He has repeatedly denied any knowledge of Epstein's crimes and has not been accused of any wrongdoing by Epstein's victims. Still, online reaction has been explosive. Social media is flooded with screenshots, name lists, and viral claims, many stripped of context. And with that has come a surge of misinformation, conspiracy theories, and sensational conclusions. Now, journalists and independent researchers are working to separate fact from fiction.
Musk has said publicly multiple times that Epstein tried to repeatedly get me to visit his island and I refused. He posted that on X, direct quote. When Forbes put out an article saying that Elon Musk planned a trip to Epstein's private island, newly released documents show, Elon tweeted back, This is false. Well, the new batch of emails tells a very different story. Well, we have the receipts now. 2 years of emails, him asking for parties, him asking for the wildest night, Epstein sending helicopters. He wasn't refusing anything.
Okay, next up, Bill Gates, a very interesting one because not only was he named in these Epstein files, but last night he even responded because of how viral these claims have gone. The part that went super viral online is at the end where it talks about Bill Gates previously asking this person to get him antibiotics so that he could discreetly give it to Melinda, his wife at the time, because he had contracted STDs from, quote, Russian girl.
A victim tells the FBI that Maxwell brought her to a party in New York and presented her to Donald Trump. They talked for about 20 minutes. The victim was then invited to Mar-a-Lago, where Trump personally gave her a tour with Epstein and Maxwell present. The FBI report says, quote, nothing happened between the victim and Trump. Maxwell also introduced this same victim to other men at these events. Their names? Redacted. The DOJ identified over 6 million pages covered by the Epstein Files Transparency Act. They've released 3.5 million to this point, barely half. And here's what's happening. Survivors' names are appearing unredacted in these documents. Their information is being exposed. Meanwhile, the powerful men who abused them, still redacted behind black bars. There's an FBI chart from 5 days after Epstein's death listing 8 co-conspirators. Only 2 faces are visible, Maxwell and Jean-Luc Brunel. 6 are still redacted. 6 co-conspirators still protected. Survivors released a statement, quote, this is being sold as transparency, but what it actually does is expose survivors. Once again, survivors are having their names and identifying information exposed, while the men who abused us remain hidden and protected. They're protecting the wrong people.
America's First Lady Melania Trump's new documentary, Melania, 20 Days to History, was meant to be an intimate look at life before President Trump's second inauguration. Instead, it's becoming the internet's latest punchline. Social media is mocking just about everything about it, from ticket sales to viewer ratings.
Every single seat for the Melania and Trump movie was sold out in all theaters in the world. People on Twitter are showing theaters where not a single ticket sold for the opening night of Melania at Boston's largest theater.
Melania documentary is already a box office flop. It turns out that nobody wants to see a $75 million home movie. At the London premiere, only 1 ticket was even sold, and part of me thinks that was a mistake.
The Rotten Tomatoes score for Melania's movie just came out. It wasn't good. She got a 7%. And these were the reviews. I'd rather rewatch January 6th. Don't waste your money.
2/3 of the crew who worked on the movie asked to be uncredited. The crew also said they worked long hours, which were deeply chaotic, and they were also often denied lunch breaks. It's apparently totally legal for Melania to get paid $30 million for a documentary, and it's because she isn't part of the government. She's just a private citizen who happens to be married to the president.
Music didn't just earn trophies. This year, it also delivered a message. The 68 Grammy Awards took place on Sunday, and some of the night's biggest winners used their acceptance speeches to send a clear political message in protest of ICE and the Trump administration's crackdown on immigrants. And it wasn't just speeches. Several artists walked the red carpet wearing ICE Out badges and turned the Grammys into a political stage watched by millions. And now, to the night's biggest winners and a few history-making moments. Bad Bunny took home Album of the Year for Debí tirar más fotos. This is the first time the Grammy's biggest award has gone to a project entirely in Spanish. Meanwhile, Kendrick Lamar walked away with 5 awards, becoming the most decorated rapper in Grammy history with 27 wins, officially surpassing Jay-Z. Billie Eilish added another major milestone to her career, winning Song of the Year for Wildflower. The Best New Artist trophy went to Olivia Dean, and the inescapable hit from the animated film K-pop Demon Hunters, Golden, became the first K-pop song ever to win a Grammy. And that's our show. Find our latest stuff on YouTube and do subscribe to our channel. See you soon.